So, this week we are talking about modes of reference. And what I mean by that is all the different delivery mechanisms that a professional can use to help users. Now, this may seem very library centric, but this would apply in any kind of information environment. There are just lots of different ways that you may have to approach a user and help them solve their problem. So here I've got University of Buffalo Library's Ask a Librarian page up just to give you some ideas of what these different modes of reference could be. They mention that, of course, you can walk into the reference desk and talk to people, but also you can chat with them using instant messaging, text them, email them, call them on the phone, or make an appointment. So, of course, they are offering you lots of different options. I thought I would show you a public library website as well. One thing I do have to make a little aside here. I'm not sure about warning people that it will take 3 business days is very good, but maybe that's good to set low expectations. But also here they tell you what kinds of questions to ask, um, and ones that can be answered relatively quickly. And we will talk about that over the next several weeks, and you'll see that I disagree with this, setting the assumption that unless you walk into the library, you can't ask complicated questions. But that's a discussion for another day. But they give a variety of ways that you can contact the librarians. And I just have one other example from NCSU, North Carolina State University Libraries, where I used to work. And I'm kind of partial to the way they set up their page, nice graphics, but also this big box where you can enter in your question and chat with a librarian. I find that very inviting. And as we'll talk more about this week, that really lowers the barrier for users to approach professionals with questions. But the main thing that I want to talk about today is not, how to do these particular types of service, but to think about all of these different modes of delivery of reference and information service as simply in different channels that you can use. But it's important to think about the reference and information service itself as something that's abstract. So we're going to be talking over the next few weeks about the reference interview, about doing instruction in reference work, about developing relationships with users, and all of those abstract concepts can play out whether you're on the phone or chatting or emailing with the user, however you communicate with them. All of these concepts that have to do with reference apply. And this is something that not all professionals think about. Sometimes they feel that the primary way for a user to interact with a librarian is by coming to the reference desk. And they say, well, I just can't help you as well through text. I can't teach through text, and therefore that's a different kind of reference service. And so they don't apply the same principles, same concepts to their service via text as they would to their service in person. And I agree that it's different. It feels different to a user, and maybe that's the way the user wants it. But I think it's really important not to say text reference is fundamentally different from in-person reference, for example. Some people, librarians will say, well, I will do reference service by phone and at the reference desk, but I'm not going to do chat. And they have separate kinds of librarians who are devoted only to chat reference. Or Buffalo and Erie County Public Library, for example, has the phone separate from the in-person. And while that might be useful in managing your staff, I think it's wrong for librarians to say, I'm only going to do certain types of reference and I don't do the others. Because, again, if you think about it from the user perspective, we need to provide the same high quality service no matter how the user comes to us. So it's just very important to say, I can do reference and information service, and here are the various modes of delivery, these channels of communication that I can use. And who knows what this list might look like in 10 or 20 years. You know, there'll probably be video, there might be, who knows, some kind of a hologram or something, and something like text we won't be using anymore. So it's important to separate the current technology from the actual concept of reference. I also wanted to show you an interesting bit of research that was done about the types of remote reference that public libraries provide. In this study, I give you a citation to this in the weekly activities, but they looked at different sizes of libraries, so libraries that serve populations of 500,000 versus less than 1,000. And they looked at what kinds of services they offered. Some of them offered a chat service. Others offered 24/7 chat, which is usually something that you provide through a consortium, so your library doesn't actually provide the chat reference. They provided email and telephone, and this is what was really interesting about their study. 100% of libraries provide reference service by telephone of these public libraries that were studied. And when they looked at the syllabi for reference courses, they found that often they would cover chat or email or in person, but they wouldn't cover telephone as a special type of reference. So this was just important to me to at least mention. I don't really cover how to do effective reference by telephone. It's a technology many of you are very familiar with. It's a technology I don't particularly enjoy using. Telephone reference was my least favorite type of reference as a librarian. But it is important to know that this is a very important type of reference and information service. So again, we just need to not be too taken in by the clever technologies like the chat reference or text reference, and really remember that sometimes it's these basic technologies that are the ones that people may be using. So keep in mind the importance of good old-fashioned technologies in doing reference, and keep in mind that all of these types, even though we are going to be talking about digital reference this week, keep in mind it's just one way of delivering the overall idea of reference and information service.